How's everybody doing tonight? Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. D-Free216, thanks for coming through. Yeah, I got to get remonetized. I hope you have a good show too. Yeah, I try to do Tuesday at 7. Shout out to D-Ready for joining. I appreciate you. Hopefully everything's going super well with you. I appreciate the one in the chat. Whew. PPO struggling today. Super tired. Can't complain though. Let's get it. Let's see. We'll get on our AI. Let's wait a couple more minutes and see who files through. So you see it, NIST Trustworthy Responsible AI, NIST AI 700-2. I don't like that number, but it's all good. Everybody know I'm a NIST guy, so been putting in that NIST work. Once again, you know how we do it. If you got any questions, cybersecurity or tech, drop them in the box. Hopefully everybody's having a great holiday. 2025 is actually coming to an end super quick. So I'm trying to make sure I'm consistent on my live streaming. Like my man D-Freeze trying to get my super chat button back when I got demonetized. once again, put you already got the one in the chat, so I think we're once again put any tech or cybersecurity in the box. Somebody's hitting me up on the chats, but we're about to get started. Working on our AI GRC. Everything is AI these days. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it is what it is. Let's get going so we can. So you see it right there. Let me get my big head out the way. That's the special publication. NIST Trustworthy, Responsible, Assessing Risk and Impacts of AI. It's a 0.1 pilot evaluation report. And I cannot get it together today. But besides that, once again, I think we're rolling. Okay, that's not showing up. So one thing I like about that is relatively not relative, super new, November 2025. That's why it's a pilot project. So a lot of times you look at those NIST documents, they be a decade old. So we know AI is relatively new. So we're trying to knock it on out. That's the 20 families of the NIST 800-53. We know we're a NIST shop, so that's kind of what we focus on the most. I've been doing this forever, so that's kind of my bailiwick. Actually, what I enjoy, really, what I do for a living. So, um, this AI 700-2 is companion guidance document to the NIST AI risk management framework. That's really what I focused on a couple times. It's really the NIST AI risk management framework, the RMF for their AI. Once again, this is a what's up, Regine? This actually is once again a companion to it. So that's what's kind of interesting about it. So what are we gonna focus on? Let's see, Misty Eye. What is up? Glad you could join me. So once again, it's expanding on the original risk management framework for AI, practical implementation guidelines for Gen AI, including we're talking about the model evaluation, data governance, prompt security, content harm mitigation, transparency and documentation, testing and red teaming expectation. Think of it as NIST 853 for Gen AI, but mapped to the AI risk management framework function. So once again, that's the companion. I think that's the bridge they're trying to go for. Really giving you some rubber meets the road type of GRC things we need to be doing from a documentation standpoint. At the end, it talks about the documentations you need to be generating out of this for when your auditors come through. Once again, the purpose of AI 702. NIST created 702 because standard AI guidance, AI RMF 10 wasn't specific enough for generative AI system, which include new risks, right? GRC, we always talk about risk. Shout out to study GRC. We were having discussion of hallucination, aka fabrication. Um, toxic or harmful output, leakage of sensitive data, model inversion or extraction, prompt injection and jailbreaks, disinformation and manipulation. AI 702 gives technical and operational controls organizations can implement. Like we said, rubber meets the road. And once again, from a documentation standpoint, what are we trying to do? Once again, for AI, we know AI is the hot topic. How AI 700 fits into the once again the NIST AI RMF. It extends the four AI RMF core functions: mapping and understanding the AI systems and risk, identifying your model type. Are you doing large language model, diffusion, multimodal? I think chatbots are in certain models. So once again, from a documentation standpoint, what are you trying to do with AI? Document the data sources you use for training slash fine tuning. Validate copyright and IP status of the training data. Identify harm, use cases, safety, privacy, bias, and misinformation. So once again, what type of AI are you doing? You need test cases to say you look for safety, privacy, bias, and misinformation. How do you measure and test and evaluate that? Once again, what's your hallucination rate analysis? Everybody know I'm an AWS guy, so if you look inside their product, they usually give you a hallucination rate and a bias rate of what they believe it is from what your standard infrastructure was or what you were trying to set up from a model perspective. Safety benchmark for toxicity, extremism, and violence. Privacy leak testing, jailbreak prompt and injection evaluation, red teaming protocols, model output and consistency measurements. Once again, you got to figure out a baseline so you can kind of figure out what's your deviation is in there. Once again, AWS have their SageMaker product, and a part of that comes in Wrangler, which does a lot of that testing and evaluation and baselines that you can get from their product. Once again, us as GRC, we just need to once again figure out what the variance of it, and I guess from a checkbox perspective, have them print out what those numbers are. Number three, managing and mitigating risks, guardrails and filtering, retrieval of augmented generation (RAG) to reduce hallucinations, sensitive data filtering, prompt hardening, rate limiting and abuse detection. What's your human review workflows and post development monitoring? So that's kind of how you're going to have risk, and we're going to look some at that at the end. What are those things we're looking for? Once again, and from a threat model perspective, from the AI. Govern, oversight, documentation, and accountability. Governance suitable for responsible AI policies. Documentation requirement, model cards, data cards, and system cards. Change management for updated models. Incident response for AI harm. Right. So you need to have run an incident response exercise. Usually we do that at least annual. So once again, part of that exercise now, we need to have our AI part of the exercise in there. Right. A lot of times I do something easy, like a laptop got stolen while you was at dinner. So what happens if somebody changed your prompt input? Right. A lot of times you have your prompts checked into version control. What if somebody comes in there and change something and put some in there that's not good? Right. So how are you versioning? And if a prompt got put in there that was fished and changed, do you have guardrails inside of your AI so it wouldn't spit out something it shouldn't spit out? Once again, are you filtering bad words? Are you looking for the bias inside there? So if it got super skewed, um, there would be guardrails on your program, so you would block the output. Like long story short, Canadian Air had it do a funeral refund. Theoretically, you probably shouldn't have your AI put out money things without going through a certain API or without actually sending it to your human. So once again, for your incident response exercise, you need to test some of those issues and things out before you roll out your AI model. And that's probably some of the things we're going to do in the near future. Probably do an incident response and a threat model and see if we can look at some of those tests. Key areas covered in NIST AI 702: data risk, unauthorized training or copyrighted personal data, data contamination, and leak during inference. All right. So once again, if it looks like copyrighted or personal data, are you redacting it? Um, is your training data just go to block it and not use it for training? Excuse me. Ooh, my fault. Block it and not use it for training. Model risk, once again, hallucinations, bias and fairness issues, poor generalization, and undocumented model architecture. So we know from a GRC perspective, we need to make sure our documentation is correct. And that's all the paperwork you have to do when you get ready for audit or an assessment. Security risks, once again, we talked about prompt injection, jailbreak attacks, model extraction attacks, poisoning and fine tuning attacks, supply chain risks, and model checkpoints. Content risk, harmful generation, hate, violence, and misinformation, synthetic identities, and deep fakes. Right? Are people sending deep fakes for you to learn off of? Synthetic identities is fake people, right? So, and synthetic identities aren't bad as long as you generate reliable test data, right? A lot of times you can use synthetic identities to generate realistic test data, right? You want to make sure you don't want it to get skewed, right, and throw your model off. So I think that's the issue with the synthetic identities because when you do test data, really, right, it should be fake and not real people's data, right? So I think that's some of the issues when you're using models to train. Operational risk, you got to have a lack of monitoring, inadequate in the loop workflow, and incident failures. All right. So, once again, those are some of the things 700-2 is looking at, and us really ramping up to really do GRC from an AI perspective. Once again, I thought 700-2 was a great special publication. Once again, companion to the AI RMF to really where the rubber meets the road. Evaluation and testing requirements. These are the things we need to be testing. Functional testing, does it work? Safety testing, does it avoid dangerous content? Security testing, resilient to attacks. Privacy testing, does it leak? Performance testing, robustness testing, and fairness evaluation. So a lot of times when we're talking about testing AI or testing development, these are these are the things we need to show in documentation that we use to test our AI, right? As part of that paperwork. Appreciate you, Calvin Whitney, for joining. So once again, and I think a lot of times when people use AI, it's kind of cute, but they don't have the enterprise rigor around what you need to do, especially from a GRC and paperwork that you're going to do an assessment. Because if we're doing FedRAMP, HIPAA, and high trust, if we add an AI, we have to add that documentation to our already hefty assessment documentation. Once again, scope, technology, stack. Once again, scope. Um, Configuration management plan, incident response plan, COOP plan. So it just adds more to what we're doing from a federal compliance, right? I do federal systems and big systems, right? So there's a lot of paperwork that you need, and this is the paperwork that people are going to be looking for. So it's not us doing it, right? So the development teams, the AI teams, the infrastructure team, the DBAs, they're the ones that are going to be kind of running those tests with the development team. Required artifacts, and we'll look at a couple of these: model card, a data card, a system card, safety test results, benchmark performance reports, red team findings, which usually is a penetration test, and mitigation documentation. So if we find some, how do we mitigate it? Right. So once again, those are artifacts and documents we need to add to our ATO authority to operate document. Prescribed controls, high level examples, security controls. We talked a little about this: input sanitization, prompt shielding, guardrails and content classification, abuse monitoring, model watermark and prevention systems, isolate GenAI workloads into a secure environment. So once again, where are you training them? Where's your where's your data being held at, right? Do you have a production data element that you use to train your data? Once again, do you have a data swamp where you just dumped all the data at? Once again, data engineering and data governance, right? Who gets to see the data? How's the data trained? Is the data redacted? All that should be taken care of before the AI engineer starts training on that data. You should have governance on that data. Safety controls, once again, toxicity filters, instruction following consistent checks, fact checks through the RAG or external tools, output modernization pipelines. Shout out to my man Larry for joining. Oh, I appreciate you. That episode premieres years of content from. I appreciate it. I don't know about renowned cybersecurity educator. I appreciate that. Once on the prescribed controls, once again, privacy controls. And we've been talking about this too. What are the issues now? We're talking about what controls are we trying to get around those major issues and pain points. PII filters, right? Personal information, personal identifiable information, differentiation privacy options. We were just talking about input redaction and memory session and wiping. Governance control, we were just talking about data governance, human in the loop sign off, IA change management, IA incident reporting, and continuous monitoring dashboards. We talked about training data and where does that come from, right? If everybody knows I'm an AWS, so if you have an S3 bucket and you putting out your documents in there, how do you validate those are the documents appropriate to training? How do you version those documents? And once again, how do you do change management on those documents? Because if that's what you're using in training, right? So you don't get hallucinations around things, or once again, check in and check out, or make sure those documents are current for training. And I think a lot of people miss out on that. especially when you're doing internal like HR training or using your system documentation. Because I think a lot of times if you get your security documents into a document management system and you use that for training, a lot of times when your auditors come in, that could be used to help your auditors figure out the appropriate documentation. But if it's outdated, right, you won't be able to do that. Deliverables you will produce under 702. If you were doing a compliance or audited documentation, this is what you prepare. Once again, your AI risk assessment from your AI RMF, your threat model. We're going to talk a little bit about that using your STRIDE or AI specific threats. Once again, your model card, data card, system design documents, GenAI red team report, safety and security test report, content modernization procedures, and your governance plan for your AI operation. Once again, extremely well aligned. We just talked about that. For you, if you're doing FedRAMP, NIST 800-53, which is my favorite, IRS 1075, CMMC, probably HIPAA and high trust in there, right? But once again, from your documents that you need to get ready for, from an assessment or ATO, authority to operate, those are the documents you need to have from an AI perspective. Really, from any perspective, right? You're gonna have your system design document. Your red team is usually your penetration testing for that segment or hopefully your whole website. Governance plans for your AI operations. So we probably do that in another video. What does a governance plan look like and what are those sections for? I probably do that pre-recorded. Keep that down to 10 or 15 minutes and just kind of drill down on the specific documentation. Because people talk about these documents, but what do they look like? How big should they be? Shout out to Larry. We know we got a lot of paperwork in the government. So that's just part of, once again, what you need to do to get your authority to operate, ATO. So at a high level, I just cut this out at the threat model part. You would do your system description. Generative AI system consisting of large language model, foundational model, diffusion model. Which one of those type models are you using? Optional fine tuning on proprietary enterprise data. Retrieval of your augmented generation pipeline. Prompt interface. Are you doing a chatbot, API, agent, or multi-model input? Which a lot of times you're doing more than one input to be norm to be kind of a normal AI because you're getting it from the internet, you're getting it from shout out to Ty. So we was talking about the red team. That will be Ty. We get our red team in there so we can get our red team report from our AI model. Like, could they poison our input? Could somebody do a denial of service? Could somebody once again make it have bad words, right? And I think those are going to be some of the new checks that's going to be coming in for your red team. You want to be doing your standard website attacks, right? Well, you're going to do your standard website attacks, but additionally, as a writer, you're going to need to start doing your AI type of attacks, right? We've been talking about some of those and what those look like. But I think as a red team person in a red team firm, somebody's gonna have to have that AI, especially when you do penetration testing. So shout out to Ty. Thanks for joining. And the stride you sit up there, it all stands for something, but I just pulled out the first one. The S is spoofing identity attacks. Let me get my big face out of there. Once again, prompt impersonation attacks to pretends to be an admin user to bypass restriction. If you go to the MITRE attack, which talks about attacks from a database, nation state attacks, that would be Atlas uh, T0806 is prompt injection. Controls to do from 702. You can have strong authentication, role separations, and prompt hardening. Right. So these are the mitigating controls, or what we want to see in your AI governance documentation for a prompt impersonation attack. fake system prompts, injects hidden instructions to the override system behavior. Once again, that's 827. Prefix templates, server-side prompt isolation. So my man Calvin, no way, what's up? Facts. Then two, identifying spoofing of a rag. Shout out to my man Engineering Smooth Cannabis came in. He was talking about a rag, fake documents injected into the retrieval index. We talked about how do we do change management on our documents to make sure they don't get poisoning. You see it right there, T0862. That's data poisoning. Documents provenance, sign ingestion. Um, I probably would sign part. I probably would hash them. I might encrypt them, so the AI would need to unencrypt them to read them. I would need to check. That might slow down the process too much. But once again, how do we prove that the documents are fake and have not been changed in our pipeline? Once again, the stride. Here's the what it means in the type of AI specific threats. We just talked about the prompt injection. The T is poisoning training data. The R is unattributive LLM agent action. The I was model inversion and leakage, extraction attack. D, token flooding, resource exhaustion. E would talk about jailbreaking tool misuse and agent misuse. But once again, and we're going to do an AI full threat model and kind of walk through what those particular attacks will look like and what's our mitigating control and once again, how will we document that in our ATO, which is an authority to operate. Like I said, this is just the overview of the NIST 702. Once again, if you got any questions, put them in the pipeline. I mean, put them in the chat, put them in the pipeline. And here I just put some of the how to use threat model programs. So we probably use the OWASP Threat Dragon, free open source visual threat modeling tools. Let you draw data flow diagrams and customize your threat categories and can be extended to include AI and ML specific threats. And also another open source one was the A-Stop attack surface and threat modeling platform, community open source platform for modeling systems and threats, and can be customized to include the ML and the AI specific threat taxonomies and pipelines. Um, Vericode, that's a commercial one, which means you got to pay. So I was looking for some of the open source tools. So when we do the threat modeling, we use one of those tools once again and kind of walk through what that threat model will look like. Once again, I was using Stride, which is Microsoft, but they haven't updated that, I think, in 5 years. And I don't think there's any AI and ML attacks in there. I don't think they're going to update it anymore. So just looking at it from some diagram standpoint, you got your AI ad set, you got your data, raw data label, validation, artifacts, your model architecture. We were talking about use cases, metadata schemas, data exploration tools, libraries, and visualization tools. Once again, the models up here, model parameters, hypermodel, train models, actors, your data owners, your AI developers, your model providers, process, data collection, pre-processing, and model tuning. Yeah, I think there are procedures, but I think it depends on the maturity of your company. Is there a procedure for documenting, updating? Um, Inside NIST, there's a change management documentation for if you change any type of data or any type of program or any type of data that's feeding your model. I think what they're trying to figure out is what's the next level up from that to do AI. But yeah, if you look at change management, NIST has a whole change management special publication. I did a couple videos of that, but I think what people are trying to figure out is that appropriate and robust enough to add AI into it? So I think that's the question. And here's some of the once again the stride. We got the spoof, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and evaluation of privileges. And we were just looking at some of those attacks earlier, but from an AI perspective, once again, the spoof is a prompt injection and identity. Tampering is data poisoning and manipulation of fine tuning. Repudiation is lack of logging for AI actions, difficulty in tracing model decisions. So part of the logging infrastructure, and that could be a ton of stuff though. But I think we're dealing that now with petabytes of information. But how do you log it, and how can you go back through and audit it? All right. So if it gives a refund or if it gives money back, how do you categorize those? And once again, in your logging, hopefully with some dashboard, these are the money things it did. These are the things that look kind of iffy from a verbiage standpoint. Was that hate, bias? So I think once you get your logging in perspective, and two, how do you segregate it in dashboards? The I information disclosure, model investigation, membership inference, and once again, that PII leakage, personally identifiable information. We don't want social security numbers flying around on the AI, right? Denial of service, prompt flooding, and resources exhaustion for complex input. Because a lot of times when you do AI models, shout out to Cloud, you have to buy tokens, and as you do more complex things, you burn up tokens. So you don't want somebody or outside person make you burn up tokens, which is company money. It's kind of the same things when you're in the cloud. You want to make sure there's people aren't there, people aren't not out there doing shadow IT. People are not spinning up big databases or spinning up running big jobs, right? You want to have your developers to say, these are the EC2s, which is how big systems you can use for Windows or Linux. These type of databases, this is how many big a core you can do, or this is the type of data. Again, once again, that's governance over your infrastructure. We're talking about governance over AI. You need governance over your infrastructure so they won't be able to do, once again, exhaustion and um, building big test beds or using big databases or running big jobs. Once again, you need governance over your system. And once again, if you're in AWS, you have your organizations and these service control policies. So you could say you can only run this type of service in development. Your database can only be this big. And at night, we're going to shut it down. So, if you need to do something overnight, you need to call and schedule it. Why? Because we want to control the governance. On top of that, we want to control how much money we spend, right? You don't want to come back with, oh, I ran this big database and now it's 10 times the price of what we thought it was going to be because we had a rogue developer, right? Then the E, elevation of privileges. Once again, jailbreak, autonomous agent misuse, function of calling misuse. So once again, making sure your security's tight. So if you have certain functions, they can only be called by certain other service functions in your things. If I have a database, it can only call these procedures. All right. I don't want a rogue agent calling these because it needs to go through the database because the database has a security on it. Right. So we don't want people once again jailbreak or or misusing or getting around the security. And I think with AI being new, I think people are really trying to kind of get their hands around it. Let's see, let's back up a little bit. Once again, if you got any questions, cybersecurity or tech, drop them in the chat. I just want to go back to one thing. Ooh. I think the deliverables. I think a lot of times we talk about stuff, but what really are the deliverables we need to deliver to get our AO? Once again, we're going to probably drill down next week in doing a threat model of a particular attack. What is a model card? What is a data card? What is the system design document? Once again, since my man Ty showed up, the GenAI Red Team report, which is basically an outside company, usually third party. You're just really having them attack your system. The new part of that is what is that going to look like when you have AI embedded in your system for those attacks? Right, it's a penetration test, but now we're trying to penetrate what AI is doing. Once again, from your red team. And when I worked at DoD for a decade, every 3 years we have people come in house and we put them in a conference room. So they were inside of our network. So they were doing um, a red team attack. Safety, security, context. Once again, this aligns extremely well with the FedRAMP, the NIST, the IRS, really any federal compliance you're trying to get where you need an ATO. That'd be HIPAA and high trust will be in there. FISMA will be in there. CGIS will be in there for the FBI. So any federal system, you definitely would need these documents inside there for your review. And I think a lot of people are missing these documents, even though they have AI embedded in their embedded in their system. I dropped the link if anybody want to come up. Once again, I just want to touch on it because I thought it was that 700-2 is obviously relatively new. It's all good, Fern. It's all good, man. I always say I'm struggle streaming, man. So welcome to the party, man. It's all good. But yeah, so once again, these are the documents I think we need to add to our GRC for our AI counterpart to that. And once again, these are the tests we need to perform, functional tests. The safety tests, I think, is kind of new from AI perspective. Security, we want it. Privacy, I think, is relatively new for the leak. Privacy is real big now. GDPR, CCPA, New York DFR. So a lot of privacy compliance from states really are making their tag performance testing, robustness testing, and fairness evaluation. Once again, we always check the performance of the system, which robustness is. I think the fairness one is kind of a new coming from the AI part of the system. Once again, some of our risks. We talked about the data risk, which we later kind of walked through. Strad was covering the model risk. Once again, hallucination is always key to that. The security risk, prompt injection, jailbreak, model extraction, poisoning and fine tuning attacks. Once again, the supply chain risk model, checkpoints. Once again, just common things we need to be doing from a GRC perspective. And I think that's some of the stuff we were missing from the GRC and the AI perspective of that. And that's the actual document. If you go out there and Google it, it'll show you. I just try to hit the high levels, kind of drill down apart. And once again, we're probably going to do a threat model on an AI risk. Probably be prompt injection. What would that look like from threat model, right? So if we have a prompt from change management, are we checking that prompt in somewhere? Right? Because when you're a corporation, if you're doing an AI system, that prompt is really part of your code. And it's something you're going to run over and over again, right? As part of your systems. I think since we use ChatGPT and we use it as a one off, but when you have AI, it's part of your system. So those prompt and scaffoldings and when you get at the top level of your AI, a lot of times you send it a JSON document or a template that says, this is how I want the data to come out. Because as a company, you want that standard. So if it's some standard, you got to check that in version control, right? And make sure change management you have. So as part of your system, it's going to use your prompt and say, this is the template, meaning this is what I want to look, this is what I want it to look like when it comes out, right? Because once again, that's part of a system, not a one-off thing. So I think from a GRC perspective, once again, what does that look like from a system? Once again, I dropped the link if anybody wants to come up. So I'm just kind of recapping some of what I saw in the NIST AI 700-2. Once again, a lot of times when I see stuff, especially if I don't have a video on it, most of the more common NIST special publications you use, I have a video on it. So the 700, I didn't have a video on it. So, and they have another one which I thought was weird, the NIST 8259, which is once again a different numbering. But once again, I just think artificial intelligence is so hot. NIST is, coming to bear, and they're just trying to get their documentation up to speed. Once again, I'm a big NIST guy, and usually if you need some guidance or special publication, depending on a certain technology, NIST usually has it. So I just always kind of followed them. Oh, they already did it. Adversary emulation. Yeah, I did a video on that. I'll drop it in there. Yeah, they definitely did that. There was an attack where Anthropic, the adversary, I think it was China, said it was testing some adversary code to do an internal test, and they were attacking government installations with it. I'll drop it in the chat on that time. But yeah. No, that's definitely been out there. Well, let me take that back. We know of at least one um, firm that was brought up, so we know at least it happened once. But Anthropic, um, they were using it. Anthropic caught it because they have their mitigation controls and checks, and they were running inside Anthropic. So that's what made Anthropic say that don't quite look right, right? So let's see if I can find that video. I did about a couple weeks ago. Oh, I got to start doing my premiere. Yep, here it is. Yep, Anthropic. The Chinese did it using Anthropic, and once again, Anthropic had their guardrail, so they kind of caught it. So this was that video on it. But yeah, that's actually been out in a while. So if they just now found it, I'm sure a couple people were doing it, probably with less sophisticated LLMs. But now I know they're out there. Now they're already out there attacking. It was just a matter of time before somebody got caught. So they were definitely out there. Once again, if you have any questions, tech or cybersecurity, put them in the chat. Once again, I think AI is just such a hot topic, and really, I'm trying to get my head around it from a GRC perspective. Most of the companies I work for, they were using it kind of in corporate, but I don't think they were kind of using it in production. They were using it as assistance to employees, so they wasn't using it in. But the thing that was coming out more and more is that from a third-party risk management standpoint, any software you buy now, it's going to have an AI component. So once again, what questions are you asking it? Are you asking it for certain mitigation controls, like any system, especially mobile? We want you to have MFA. So what is MFA and AI, right? So what are the must-haves when people have AI embedded in their system? I would say 50% of the time you can cut it off and not use the AI, but now a lot of people just bed it in there. You can't even cut it off. So the first question is, are you using our data to train? So yes or no? We need to know that question. Right. So what are your AI questions you're using? Once again, that's the video for Ty if he wants to look at it. My videos are always too long. Here's I'm gonna drop the link if anybody wants to come up. Farron is more than happy to come up. If not, it's all cool. I think I'm gonna do shout out to Larry. He brought up the government's AI initiative. What is that? I can't even think of the name of it. I'll probably do that Friday at lunch. Genesis. We're gonna probably talk about Genesis on Friday. Hopefully, I get my slides done. So yeah, we're gonna talk about Genesis. See where we're backstopping. See what we're signing up for. That makes me a little nervous. So I'll put here. I'll share it, and we're gonna wrap it on up. Let's see. Anybody got questions? Of course, anybody can come on up. One other. So let's look at Genesis real quick. That's what we're going to talk about Friday. So you see that's from the White House documentation. By authority of the president from the founding republic. Today, America's in a race for global technology dominance. I'm calling it supremacy in the development of AI, an important frontier of scientific discovery and economic growth. To that end, the administration have taken a number of actions to win the race, including multiple executive orders implementing an AI action plan for the United States. So that's really what we're going to talk about Friday at lunchtime, 12 o'clock Eastern. Everybody know I'm in the Midwest. So that's what we're going to talk about Friday at lunchtime. Shout out to Larry. He actually brought that up. So we're going to make that happen. Once again, I think from a society standpoint, what does that look like? What are we signing up for? It's definitely going to have an impact on jobs. It's going to have an impact on the future. It's going to, we'll dig into it kind of, I won't call it the digital divide in there a little bit. We'll talk about inequities in there. There's a few things I think AI is going to hit up. So once again, we're going to talk about that Friday at lunchtime. So once again, if you got any questions or you want to come up, just come on up. Or if we've got tech questions, cybersecurity or tech, drop them in the chat. Just kind of trying to get our heads around AI and what the future holds. I think it's going to hold a lot. So that's the interest. That is the interesting point about AI. Once again, what is the United States kind of doing? And two, it's going to be a big investment on it. So once again, that's what we're going to talk about on Friday lunchtime. PBL got to start working on the slides. He a little behind. Oh. No, I don't. No, I think I think everybody feels like that. I think that's the kind of imposter syndrome. Um, it's hard to be top notch. There's a lot of skills to try to be top notch in, right? So I'm a GRC guy, and I think a lot of that's going to come from AI kind of paperwork. MCP servers, I think they're going to go out to your infrastructure and scan and kind of come up with a lot of that documentation for you. Like, what is your scope of work? How are you doing encryption? Do you have MFA on there? Right. A lot of times, I would interview people. I think AI is going to come up with a lot of those questions for you. So, how do you move up the ladder to, I guess, the next level? But I have to apologize, people. I don't know why PBL so tired. I guess I had to drive a friend of mine to the airport. He was late, and I was trying to work out this morning. Shout out to my man LinkedIn. Gray Ops here. Appreciate you. Oh, that's what we definitely gonna interview my band right here. So definitely one of my mentors. So I'm glad he joined us. definitely got to interview him. Definitely VP level. Get some of that C-suite knowledge in there. So thanks for joining me. I need to get my golf game together so we can go golfing. Definitely has a great knowledge base, especially from that kind of C-suite. He was the right hand man of the CIO of one of the consulting companies I was um, doing business with a client. So we definitely want to get some of that C-suite in here, right? So definitely their thoughts on it. And I mean, he did some big systems, so we definitely want to get him in the house. We start interviewing in 2026. I ain't interviewed probably in a year and a half. A lot of people have been asking me to start my interviews up, so we definitely want to make sure we get the VPs in here, the senior people in here, right, to kind of give you some insight of what they're looking for, what skills they want you to have, um, and kind of their view of where they think things are going through. Um, so once again, I'm definitely gonna get some of those interviews in here. He definitely a boomer, so we got to make sure he thinking right though. We got to make sure the boomers are thinking right. Now, shout out to him though. Definitely a cool guy. I was having problems at a Fortune 500 company, and the guy was having problems with. He fired him. Shout out to him. He made PBO's life a lot easier. Shout out to him. But once again, drop any questions on there. We about to shut it on down. Once again, we want to hit that NIST AI 700-2, talking about the from a GRC perspective, what documentation we need when we do AI, or AI is embedded in a third party company, or we're embedding AI in software. But every software now, because they're trying to sell as AI. Then at the top level, once again, model evaluation, get our data governance in there, get our prompt security in there. I took a pressure. It's all good. I appreciate you. All good, all good. Let's see, content harm mitigation, transparency, documentation, testing, reading team, expectation. Think of NIST 53 for Gen AI, but mapped to the RMF is the risk management framework. So really, we're talking about the risk of AI and how do we mitigate it, and what are we testing for to make sure we have those things covered. Once again, I guess I want to appreciate everybody for joining me. Gonna hit that crisp 1 hour. I think PBO gonna lay back down and take a little break. Once again, I want to appreciate everybody for joining me. Come and check me out Friday. Shout out to Larry. We're gonna do that Genesis mission from the United States government. What are we signing up for? Are we backstopping or giving money to private organizations we shouldn't be giving money to? Right. But once again, we're going to talk about that. And two is, where do we think AI is going to go from a job perspective, society perspective, um, risk, reward? I appreciate you, Ty. No problemo. PBO got like 1,000 videos, so he always got something. He always got something for you. So just gonna keep grinding. Once again, if you got any questions, I'll hang out for another 5 minutes if anybody drop anything. But once again, just talking about from an RMF risk management framework from AI, what does that look like? Right, so PBO probably gonna lab and study a little bit more. I appreciate that, Larry. So yeah, it's always interesting when I do those, and I kind of put my 2 cents on kind of what I see. Then I'll put something in Chat GPT and see what it thinks of the summarization of it, right? Kind of a lot of times I disagree with Chat GPT, so uh, I think there's a little miss and disinformation, and a lot of times I don't, when you look forward in certain demographics, I just don't think it takes those into account at all. So, facts to the lunch and learn. So, check me out. What is the 12th at noon Eastern time? Come and check us out. We're gonna be digging into the Genesis. We're gonna start working on those. I got to start doing my presentations a little earlier so I can get a little more um, penetration out through the algorithm from YouTube and LinkedIn. But it's all good. I don't super worry about that. Just stay on the grind. Once again, I want to appreciate everybody for joining me. Check out AI, the NIST 700-2. Once again, I think it tells you right there it needs to have more AI specific risk controls and documentation and evaluation techniques. It had the AI RMF, but when I looked at it, it was too high level, right? We want to get down to where rubber meets the road and what do we need to give the auditors to make sure we can get our ATO or a pass to do the type of work we need to do in a federal space. Once again, I'm out. I appreciate everybody for joining me. Everybody have a nice hump day tomorrow, which is Wednesday. Let's keep it going. Stay on the grind. Don't give up. It's getting ugly out here. That's all I got. Everybody have a nice night.